Welcome to Basic Brewing Radio for Thursday, June 20th, 2024. I'm James Spencer. Here at Basic Brewing Radio, we're all about home brewing. This week, Matt Giovanisci of Brew Cabin and Swim University and Josh Secaur of Gambit Brewing in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I compare our White IPAs. We started out just formulating a recipe for me to brew on this show, and then Matt and Josh brewed their own as well to put their own spins on the style. If you want to support us financially, check out patreon.com/basicbrewing, and many thanks to everybody who's helping out in that way. If you go to patreon.com/basicbrewing, you can see a long list of stuff that you can access if you sign up as a supporter. And many thanks to the new Patreon subscribers who are signing up every week. Your help is very much appreciated. Steve and I have a couple of beers that are ready to sample for the video show, but he's been a bit under the weather lately, nothing too serious. But we haven't had a chance to get together and shoot. What I'm thinking of doing for the financial supporters is making a behind-the-scenes video about the pasteurized fruit stout that I made and sending it out to both levels of Patreon subscribers while we're in a little lull on the video side. This is the little small batch stout that I put a lot of blackberry juice into at bottling and then let it bottle carbonate a bit and then pasteurize the beer in the bottle when it seemed like it was, the PET bottles were tight. I've sent that beer to Chris Colby, so if knock wood, if it doesn't pop in transit, we can taste that for the show. It should be just fine. Should be. I wouldn't send anything that would be unsafe into the shipping channels. I'm really curious to see what effect treating that beer in the sous vide bath, at 140 degrees Fahrenheit, 107, would that be 7? No, not 70 C. Anyway, keeping it hot in the sous vide to pasteurize it, I'm curious to see what effect that has on the flavor of the beer. A few months ago, Susan asked me if I'd ever been to Milwaukee, and I've been to Madison. I had to think about it a bit, but, to make sure there wasn't a homebrew con in Milwaukee that we went to. But no, I don't think I've ever been. So out of the blue, she suggested we go there to Milwaukee on a vacation. Now, the first week of July, we'll be in Milwaukee checking things out. I hear it's a great city. First of all, I won't be posting this show the first week of July. Second, if you have suggestions on what to do or see in Milwaukee, let me know. It doesn't have to be just about beer. I've been to Madison, had a lot of fun there. Looking forward to getting back to Wisconsin. I hear they get a lot of good beer and cheese up there. I've sent bottles of my double IPA to Matt and Josh. I think that beer turned out really well. It was fermented on my warm porch with A37 POG from Imperial, which has been extended as the featured yeast until August. That's great news for everybody in the heat bubble right now. Get some POG and put it in your beer on your porch to put that heat to good use. At the higher end of its fermentation range, POG gives a lot of mango and other tropical fruit character. Perfect for this 8.6% ABV double IPA that I made. Even with this big beer, I didn't use a starter. I didn't have to dust off my stir plate. Those 200 billion cells in that packet of Imperial POG went straight to work, being pitched around 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 37 C. The airlock was bubbling in just a handful of hours, and it was pretty much done in a couple of days. That's because POG is Ebegarden Kveik, and the 100% wheat raw white IPA, which is a mouthful that we'll taste in this show, was brewed with B44 Whiteout, which blew the lid off my bucket, as you'll see if you saw the video podcast. Ask your local homebrew store about A37 POG, B44 Whiteout, and all the dependable deliciousness from Imperial Yeast. And check them out, as always, at imperialyeast.com. It's imperialyeast.com. Great people, great product. We greatly appreciate their support. Okay, this was a really fun show to do. Fascinating to me to hear the different approaches we took to brewing this style. And, of course, great fun tasting the differences and the similarities. Matt Giovanisci of Brew Cabin and Swim University. Welcome back to Basic Brewing Radio.
Thanks for having me again.
And Josh Secaur of Gambit Brewing Company in St. Paul, Minnesota. Welcome back.
It's good to see you, fellas.
Yep.
Yeah. I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
We talked about this and it just kind of came up naturally, right? In an episode, we're like, hey, let's all just do this.
Yeah, I think we formulated the recipe for mine.
Uh-huh.
And then you guys just kind of on your own said, I want to do one too.
For sure. Yeah.
Which I think is great. I know we can't do it all the time, especially Josh, you with your, you got a business to run and stuff. You can't always do it. But if something like this comes together naturally, I think it's awesome. Mm-hmm. Now, you guys didn't replicate my recipe, right? Matt, you didn't do 100% raw.
No. I did my interpretation, my private interpretation.
Yeah, we'll call it a spin on your recipe.
Yeah, spin-off. That's right.
And we'll get into the details. In fact, let me go ahead and get into if you've seen the latest episode of Basic Brewing Video, you've seen mine. It is, and it's based on the original hoppy raw beer that we tasted on the show. And you guys seem to like. Chris Colby didn't like. We always have to put that in there. But it was 12 pounds or 5.4 kilograms of wheat malt. And I did a 2-hour mash at 148 degrees Fahrenheit or 64 C. During that time, I pulled some of that wort, like after the first 20 minutes of the wort recirculating through the mash. And then I did about 3 quarts. And I did a hop tea, a 1-hour boil with an ounce or 28 grams each of Citra and Amarillo. So boil that for an hour, put that back on top of the mash, and then finish that 2 hours. And then ran off that unboiled wort, mostly unboiled. I ran off the first 3 gallons, and then I got a stuck sparge because it's 100% wheat. Yeah. So I lifted. Luckily, I was able to lift the bag out and extract the wort. And at that time, it was in the bucket at 158 degrees Fahrenheit or 70 C. So I did a 10-minute hop stand with another ounce of Citra and Amarillo, and then chilled down to 77 degrees Fahrenheit or 25 C. Pitched B44 whiteout from Imperial. It blew the top off my bucket. The next morning, the bathroom was a mess. Should have used the Firm Cap S, I guess. And then a few days later, when it calmed down a bit, I dry hopped again with another ounce of Citra and another ounce of Amarillo. So I was gonna a couple days later I was gonna go ahead and keg it. So I moved it into the kitchen and I took out the hop bag and I put the lid on and I kind of left it for a few hours to settle back down. And I came back and the airlock was going again. So in that initial when I took the gravity, on that initial day that I was gonna keg, and it was down. It went from 1065 to 1016, and then when that second round of activity stopped, the final gravity was 1008. So I guess I roused up the yeast a bit more, and it just wasn't done. I can't remember. I can't remember that happening. So
wait, this is after dry hopping?
Yeah.
So
I don't know if
could be hop creep.
Yeah,
maybe.
I think it could be too.
You think so?
Oh yeah, the hop, the enzymes in the hop broke down the wheat proteins or whatever,
even more,
and caused more available sugar to happen, and perhaps.
Well, whatever happened, I was, I delayed my kegging for, until it completely settled down. So from 1065 to 1008, in my calculations, is 7.5% alcohol. Now, if you remember, the original hoppy raw beer with the same amount of Vienna malt, the original gravity was 1048. So we went from 1048 to 1065 from, Vienna to wheat malt.
Yeah.
Wow.
Same process, way different results. I was kind of amazed by that. So what you have here, I guess the first beer that we're going to try of our three white IPAs is my little beer. So I'm a little nervous as always, but I kind of like this beer. I'm interested to see what you guys think.
And you have a kegged version of it, is that right?
Yeah. Oh, I Susan and I, when it came time to package the beer, I bottled 12 of them and primed them in the bottle. Okay. And that's what you've got is one of those bottle conditioned beers. And then the rest of it I kegged. Because I wanted to try to kind of protect the hops from as much oxidation as possible. Mm-hmm. And I think that the hops have faded a little bit on the keg side. I don't have another bottle left. So unfortunately I can't compare them side by side. But Matt, how is the hop character? What's it taste like?
I'm not getting a ton of hop character on the nose. I think it's overpower the Belgian-y yeast character is overpowering maybe whatever hops were there or, are not there anymore just from age. Mm. And you said it's Citra and Amarillo is what you used, right?
Right.
Yeah, it smells very Belgian-y.
Oh.
In fact, I have all three poured, and I just did a quick sniff of all three, and yours is the Belgian-iest of them.
Now you also there was quite a bit of sediment in the bottle, and you guys both roused up the yeast.
Yeah, I remember when I got the bottles in the mail, I was like, it looked like it was very, very cloudy, very hazy in the bottle. You could see through it, or you couldn't see through it, I guess. And then it's been sitting in my fridge for 2 weeks, I guess. It's been since you sent them.
Yeah, I don't remember when I sent them. I bottled them on the 9th, on May 9th.
Oh, so it's been
a month and a day.
It's been
a month and 9 days since I bottled.
When I pulled it out of the fridge just now, it was pretty clear. So I roused it a little bit. I just kind of rolled it on the counter, and it's hazy now. Not as much as it was when I first got it, but that was also transportation and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mine is quite hazy, but I did take it on the 110-mile car ride today. So, but I get a ton of black pepper and clove.
Yeah, I do too.
In the nose, which I like that black pepper character.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, I think there's definitely some hop in it, at least in my bottle, but it is overpowered by that yeast character.
Yeah.
Huh. See, I'm getting the opposite now.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, my just as soon as I sip, I get lemon. There's a ton of lemon and citrus, and that to me is the major character of the beer. Mm. And when the beer, and I've been drinking on this for a while. We're lucky.
You got to be familiar with it.
We're lucky there's any left. But when the beer warms up, like if I'm sitting out on the porch drinking beers, when it warms up, then I get some clove, and some of that Belgian yeast character sneaking through. But in the beginning, it's more about the hops. Now, what do you think about the malt bill? Because this is 100% wheat that is mostly not boiled.
Yeah.
I don't think you'd know it. I don't.
No, I definitely wouldn't
stand out to me as this is a weird wheat beer.
Right.
It's really good.
Oh, good.
I do get the or at least I want to attribute it to it, the little twang, the wheat twang, which is kind of aiding in what I think, or what I would consider that lemony sort of citrusy note in the flavor of it. And I noticed immediately when I drank it, it had mouthfeel, like a good substantial amount of body for a very dry beer, technically.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. No, the flavor I think is great. I do get a lot of lemon and orange on the flavor. You don't get as much of the clove and black pepper in the flavor, but it's really there on the nose.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's a really good drinking beer. That feels like bad grammar, but
Quaffable is what you say, right?
see, somebody smarter than me.
I think I just heard James say it a bunch. So.
Well, it's just me trying not to say drinkable.
Drinkable, right? I can drink it.
Chris Colby did not like it, but he disliked it less than the original hoppy raw beer. So I wish I hadn't told him beforehand that it was a raw beer. I should not have told him.
Shouldn't have. Yeah.
Because I don't know if I'd.
He had maybe a little bit of bias.
Maybe. I mean, I trust him. I trust his taste buds.
What did he say he didn't like? Like, what was the attribution of that?
It's more that it's that raw malt character. Steve says that he gets a little bit of just a hint of like dough, like a pizza dough kind of character. I don't know if anybody's ever eaten raw pizza dough, but
the last 2 weeks I have. That's all I've been doing is trying to make pizza.
But you don't eat raw dough, do you?
You have to eat the raw dough in order to know what the final outcome is going to be.
Huh?
That's how the true pizza people in I believe it's Italy, where it's as an Italian, half Italian, that's what they told me to do.
Huh?
I'm kidding. I have no idea. I shouldn't have done it.
You should
Hurt my stomach.
Through with that story.
It says on the gold medal flour bag, "Do not eat this product raw."
Do not eat it raw. I didn't have that one. I had the King Arthur 00 soft white wheat
King Arthur's
pizza dough flour.
King Arthur's like, "Go for it, whatever.
Go for it." Yeah, it's organic, quote unquote.
Just eat it on a round table. Signed, Sir Comforts.
Lancelot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sir Comforts. Okay.
Sir Comforts.
So we like this beer?
Yeah, I like it.
For sure, yeah.
Does it fit the brief? Is it a white IPA? I don't know if I've had another white IPA.
Yeah, yes.
I think so. Yeah.
A hoppy wit. Sure.
Yeah. You're the same dilemma that I went through when I put my version on tap at Gambit. Like, is it a white IPA or is it a dry hopped wit beer?
Mm.
And nobody's gonna argue with you either way. I don't think.
Right.
Right. It's all semantics at that point.
And in fact, you labeled yours. It's called "You Get What You Give," and it's dry hopped Belgian wit beer is what it says on the can. So
yeah.
I did give these beers out to other people, and one was John Lovett, a longtime listener of this show, who featured me in a documentary about homebrewing many years ago, and he was a journalist and then worked as a professional brewer out on the West Coast, I believe, for a long time, and then now he's back at the University of Arkansas working in communications. So he wrote me a long review of this beer. He said, "I think my favorite characteristic was a sharp, refreshing, and tantalizing hop zing that bordered on electrifying and lingered on the tongue. The first drink was recorded at 47 degrees Fahrenheit, 6 p.m. Thursday." He's very precise.
Sure, of course.
I need to send this guy my beers immediately, because that's the kind of write-ups I need.
After measuring an open temp of 41.5 degrees Fahrenheit and letting it settle in my Door County Brewing glass for a few minutes to take pictures, the color, as you see, was a medium hazy straw with a decent head of foam after a gentle, dreg-reserving pour. So he did not pour the dregs. Mm-hmm. It was slightly sweet on the tongue at first, but had a dry finish. The smell to me was neutral, but as it warmed and I got into smell tasting, since my nose was stopped up a bit, I got some juicy fruit. By 6:15 p.m., the WIPA had warmed to 55 degrees Fahrenheit. It was the most pleasant and enjoyable drink. I savored it to the last drop. So it sounds like the dregs is what's bringing the Belgian character to the beer.
Yeah, that's interesting. But it kind of makes sense, I suppose. You know, if you're upping that yeast back into the beer, it would bring maybe more of that character with it.
Yeah, if you're actually tasting yeast.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad. I'm relieved that you guys seem to think it's okay. So, but now is where we get into what makes me really nervous is you guys have done your own interpretations of the style. Who wants to go next? Matt, do you want to go next? Do we want to talk about your beer next?
No, I want to talk about Josh's beer next.
Okay.
You asked me. I gave an answer.
We could. Should we rouse the
only because it's right next to yours in my lineup. So.
No, that's fair. Well, and color wise, I mean, mine and James's are way more similar than
right.
Yours is the outlier, Matt. So
yeah.
Should we rouse the can, or does it matter? There's probably no. This is
I already poured it and I didn't, and it's the same level of haze for me, or the same level.
I don't
of cloudiness.
think there's a ton of. There might be a tiny bit of sediment in it, but I would guess there's not much. I tried to pull the majority of it out before I packaged it.
Ooh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And again, this is called "You Get What You Give." Dry hopped Belgian wit beer, 6.5% alcohol by volume. For sale at and on tap at Gambit Brewing in St. Paul,
Correct.
Minnesota.
Yep. So if anybody wants to come pick a 4-pack up or have one on tap, it's on tap and in 4-packs now. So
a future award winner, since it's on this show.
Since it's on the show, I think that's how it works. Yeah. I'll make an award up if I have to.
We don't want to.
Yeah. We won the Secaur award for best.
Now I'm holding them up side by side. Yours is a couple shades darker than mine. Mine may be a little more cloudy, but they're similar.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have the recipe in front of you?
I do. So I used it's like 65% North Star Pilsner from RAR, 32% of the RAR white wheat, and then like 3% honey malt.
Mm.
And the honey malt, I think, is what gives it that couple shades.
The color.
Even though it's just a tiny bit, it a little bit of that seems to tint things that little bit more orange.
Mm.
But I do like I like the little bit of background sweetness that malt brings.
Yeah,
especially in Belgian beers like this.
I like it. It's got a nice sharp hop character as far as bitterness is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
The mouthfeel is not as chewy as mine.
Mm-hmm. What's the hops in it?
So I use Mandarina Bavaria and Citra. So there's basically just Mandarina Bavaria in the whirlpool, and Mandarina and Citra dry hop.
No early hopping.
No early hopping. No.
So all late hopping.
So essentially, I kept this a raw ale. I mean, it didn't even really boil. I brought it to like 195.
Really?
Okay.
Then yeah. So
wow.
All the bitterness is just from like 195 degree hop stand.
How long?
20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But then it takes me 90 minutes to run out of the kettle through a chiller and into the fermenter. So,
right. And I'm curious if you know this math. Do you know how many pounds per barrel you used, and how would you do that to the homebrew level with dry hopping?
In a 5-barrel batch, I used 3 pounds of Mandarina in the whirlpool, which I think is like, I don't remember the alpha on that, but I would guess it's around 9, maybe 8 or 9. Mm-hmm. So like quick napkin math, if I'm trying to knock something down to a homebrew level, I divide it by 30 because there's basically 30 5-gallon batches in one of my beer, in a 5-barrel batch. It doesn't work exactly, but it's close. So what would that be, like 1/10 of a pound? So maybe 2 ounces in the whirlpool, I think would probably get you close.
And did you go hard on the dry hop?
Not huge. just under 2 pounds per barrel. So
Okay.
not not a huge dry hop, but I didn't want it to like hazy IPA level of dry hop because I wanted to make sure the yeast character still would show.
Right.
I like
Yeah,
it.
I get a lot of the hop character on the nose than I
Mhm.
do the Belgian-ness.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, there's certainly enough hop bitterness to balance everything.
Hmm.
I'm getting a lot of citrus, especially when I swallow.
Yeah.
There's kind of the almost pithy, either orange or grapefruit uh, there's the bitterness, that goes with not just eating an orange slice that's been peeled,
Right.
but you get the orange slice that's got the skin around it,
Yep.
Yeah.
which I like.
And it's nice for the style too. I think
Mhm.
without adding any orange or spices to it, you're getting that with the hops instead of literal
Yeah.
orange peel.
Right. Yep. Yeah. And I really debated putting coriander in the whirlpool too,
Yeah.
but I didn't. I
Yeah.
think maybe I would try a different version of this beer with a bigger dry hop like this and coriander. I think it might be an interesting way to kind of bump both the hops and the coriander up, kind of maybe like the sum is greater than the parts.
Hmm.
That's not how you say that, but you get my drift.
That,
Yeah.
that works.
It works. Yeah.
I'm not, at least at this temperature, I'm not getting a whole lot of Belgian yeast character. I don't know if you guys' taste buds are different from mine.
I mean, it's there. It's just not. It's not. Yeah, it's not as strong. I mean, comparing it to yours, James, it's not as strong. It's not as in your face.
Right. Totally agree. Yeah.
But maybe because we have the bottles and you have the keg version.
Exactly. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think the Belgian-y character. I mean, the same when you have a bottle conditioned, Belgian wit, the instructions on the bottle are to rouse it up,
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's very good. And I asked you earlier before we recorded why you didn't call it a white IPA. Instead, you called it a dry hop Belgian wit beer. And now that I'm drinking it, I agree with what you actually named it.
Yeah.
It's-
I was right in between, because
Yep.
I think if I called it a YPA or a white IPA, no one would argue with me.
You know what? Also, too, do you think people would be upset if it tasted Belgian-y? It's
Yeah.
just like I thought I was getting an IPA and it tastes like a wit beer, or it
Right.
tastes like a Belgian beer. Like that's not what I wanted. And it's like, well, yeah, that's what a white IPA is, but it's just an education issue.
Right. And that's a lot of the reason I wanted to make sure that it specified Belgian somewhere.
Yeah.
Whatever we called it, just because the people that aren't as deep into the weeds with this stuff as
Sure.
and everybody that listens to this will be, if you're just bringing dad out for Father's Day and a white IPA, sure. Wait a minute, why does this taste like? There's just a little bit of a disconnect then.
Yep. And if I'm not mistaken, the only, I guess, true white IPA I've ever had, and I don't even know if this is a white IPA, but I think it's by Flying Dog out in the East
Yeah.
Coast.
Yep.
And they call it a Belgian IPA.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
But that
yeah,
is very bitter, though.
It is. Yeah. There was a minute there that Belgian IPAs had a thing, and I
Yeah.
found some versions that I really liked and a lot that I really
Mm,
did not.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it was tricky to pair, hop character to strong Belgian yeast character. You
Yeah.
know, especially not necessarily this strain, the Belgian wit strain, but the more like triple, the Abbey strains or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Those kinds of Belgian yeast strains. I think it's maybe harder to pair, especially because back then when the Belgian IPAs were coming around, people were hopping so aggressively.
Yeah.
And there was
And
no
not whirlpool hopping.
no,
Right.
no,
Yeah.
there was no subtlety whatsoever.
No. It was
where
an IBU chasers.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, which the IBU, like a bitter beer with Belgian yeast, just completely clashes to me.
Yeah.
That's why this beer, it can't be any more than 20 IBUs, I wouldn't think.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the way, that was what was in my head making it, is to keep the bitterness low just enough so it's not, the old school Belgian stuff that when they came to America, everything was so sweet you could hardly drink it.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that middle ground seemed like the right way to go.
Yeah, this is very quaffable.
Yeah, and it has bitterness. It's
for sure.
I wouldn't even go as far as it's to say that it's just a perfect it's hoppy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And no 60-minute or early editions too. That's all from just a hot whirlpool.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
and
195 degrees, yeah.
And you didn't bring the wort up to a full boil.
No, because I wanted. I was following your raw wheat recipe as closely as I felt comfortable.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've done some other raw IPAs, but at the scale I'm at and the money that you have into all the hops,
yeah.
I really want to make sure I take everything high enough to pasteurize. So if it sits at 195 degrees, I feel comfortable where you still get kind of the raw ale character because you're not going through a full boil and you're not getting the hot break and the cold break, but you're everything's hot enough that you can get some of the bitterness out and you can, make sure you're not pulling anything unsavory into the fermenter. So
now when I racked my beer, both of these raw beers from the fermenter, into the bottles and kegs, what was left behind was like the least amount of trub, the least amount of sediment in the fermenter that I've ever seen. And it must have,
I got most of it here in the bottle. So send it to me.
And it must have been all yeast because there was just no protein break at all. Did you see a similar thing happen with your fermenters?
Yeah. Well, and it could have been because it sent every bit of protein out the top of the fermenter. This thing blew off like the same as you said. Yours hit the ceiling. I cleaned up after this thing for days. It was ridiculous. It was crazy. To clean that fermenter was a real chore.
Yeah. Yeah, this beer. Yeah, it was. I called it a problem child. I think it's okay to call it that. What between the stuck sparge, the kind of, I don't want to say stalled fermentation, but the re-energized fermentation, and then the blowing off of the lid of the bucket. I've never seen. It must have blown the airlock off first. Because the top of the lid, if you look at the video, the lid of the bucket has stuff on it. So it must have run out through the hole in the bucket for long and until it clogged. Until it was like, nope, that's too much, even too much pressure to for that. And so then it just opened the bucket and sprayed the bathtub. So
now with yours, you had. What do you think the temperature was roughly when you were fermenting in the bucket?
Oh, in the bucket. I pitched it at 77.
Okay.
Or 25 C.
80s anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in our house in the summertime, she's probably got the thermostat set to like 78.
Wow.
So it's warm.
Okay, it's warm down there.
It's warm in the house.
And then not to mention the just viscosity of a raw wheat ale.
Yeah. That's
you combine those two. You're talking about a high school, it
was gunk.
Elementary school volcano.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Susan came down. She said, because she probably smelled it. She can smell things fermenting in the guest bathroom.
Are you making banana cream pie?
But she said, I think your fermenter leaked a little. And I was like, oh, sure. No.
Yeah.
Because the gaping maw of the bucket was facing away from the door. I think your fermenter leaked a little. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
no.
They don't leak a little.
No.
They leak.
No,
No,
it was like Pompeii down there.
no, a sealed bucket does not leak a little. I think that's the first time it's ever like blown the top off of a bucket.
Oh yeah.
It amazed me that we didn't wake up because it had to sound like something, you know. We heard when I accidentally double primed the Mr. Beer PET bottle and the bottom blew out of that. We heard that years ago. That was pretty impressive, but we didn't hear the bucket. So,
Josh, what did you ferment at real quick? What temp?
I started it at 66 and I held it at 66 for like 3 days, and then I just let it go, and I think it probably got up to about 74.
Okay.
Finally started coming back down to earth.
And was that on purpose to control the Belgian clash?
Yeah, I was trying to keep it more banana character than
clove,
black pepper and clove.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And I didn't get as much banana out of it as I thought I would, so I might try that yeast again and go like 62 and see just to see what it does.
When you said Belgian clash, it was everything I could do not to sing "Rock the Casbah" in a Belgian accent. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, good.
I feel like you really
spare the listeners.
You deprived the listeners of something really. James, come on.
If this was after the third beer, I would probably would have happened.
That's a Patreon extra.
Oh, true. Yeah.
There are things that remain on the cutting room floor that don't make it out to the public. So,
sure,
most of them are stories that, I mean, if you guys listen to the episodes, most of the things that I cut out are things that I say. So,
sure.
He'll let us make fools of ourselves, Matt.
I know. Yeah, we're leaving that in there.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, okay. I've got Matt's poured. It is also a golden beer.
Mm-hmm.
It's more clear than
really
than either one of ours previously. I'd say that the color, if you were to discount the cloudiness, maybe it's closer to mine.
Interesting.
I don't know.
Is mine in my 3 glasses? Matt's is definitely the most yellow.
Mm-hmm.
And this beer looks great. Like, this is the color that I love the color of this. It's a really like nice golden straw.
Yeah.
If I had your fancy underlight, this thing would look
my $2 Amazon underlight.
Link in the comments.
Not an endorsement, just
go to brewcabin.com. Search for underlights. The associate link is there on the side.
Oh, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I hadn't.
There's more. You haven't talked about the recipe, but I get more kind of Melanie.
Mm-hmm. Who's Melanie?
She's got a brand new pair of roller skates. But neither of you are old enough to get that reference.
I know the song.
Yeah.
That was Melanie.
No, I'm curious about your recipe now, because it's definitely a different character than either of the other two.
It's a different take for sure. I didn't follow any of what we did. I just went, okay, if I was going to make I wanted to blend a white IPA with traditional, or not traditional, more modern brewing practices of a New England or hazy IPA.
Yeah.
But still kind of using, the Belgian-y thing. So it's really simple. It's half and half. It's half Pilsner malt. I got a local maltster called Root Shoot. It's 2 Levabon, and then it's very light. Mm-hmm. And then I used Briess white wheat malt, so not flaked wheat, but white wheat malt, and that's 50% as well. So I did 6 pounds and 6 pounds. And I did a traditional, mashed it. Like I think let's see, I mashed at 150, 60 minutes, did a boil, the whole thing. I added 1 ounce of Magnum at 60 minutes. And then I did 3 ounces of Citra for a 15-minute hop stand at flame out. So I just cut the flame electric thing. I cut the volts, and then I added 3 ounces of Citra and let that sort of steep for 15 minutes. So we up here in Colorado are at it cuts at around 200, maybe 195 degrees, and then let that for 15 minutes. Put that in a bucket fermenter. So I didn't do any fancy, glycol chilling or anything. I just went in a normal fermenter, and I used a Saison yeast that I had from a previous batch that you guys drank.
Interesting.
So I used that Saison yeast, pitched plenty of it, and then just fermented it at room temp. And right when I fermented it, I added 3 ounces of what they call Lupamax Citra.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I believe Cryo Citra.
Cryo Citra, yeah.
3 ounces of that at yeast pitch.
Huh.
And that's it. And I let that go for, I don't know, probably a couple weeks before I kegged it. And that's what you got.
It's way good.
It's super good.
It is.
And then I did the same, like water chemistry was like very New England IPA water chemistry, high calcium chloride, Yeah, so I think mine fermented at like between 70 and 75, kind of in that range. It was, I just kind of did it ambient temperatures, and it fluctuates a lot here in this space because when it gets really hot, we don't have a lot of insulation, so the room gets hot. So, yeah, that's what it is.
I really like it. The brightness, I think maybe from the Saison yeast versus like a wit strain makes this beer for me.
Yeah.
Like it's dry, it's crisp, it's bright, it's hoppy. This is super good.
Yeah, I was definitely happy with it when I poured it, and I actually had a brewer come over, and there was like, I don't know how many years ago, but it was many years ago. There was an infection at some of the breweries where they were, a lot of these breweries were making hazy IPAs, and they had a Belgian strain infected.
Yep.
And it said it gave him PTSD when he drank it.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's like, this tastes like a problem beer. And I'm like, yeah, well, it was on purpose. But yeah, I get that. I'm like, that's kind of like, I knew about that, and I kind of went, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, I think it's a feature, not a bug.
Yeah.
It
is a bug, literally.
Yeah, well, that's true. I'm getting pepper along with the fruitiness of the hops, and that's got to be the yeast, right? The pepper, spicy pepper character.
Yeah, I would think so. It was, I would say, when I first kegged this, it was really like the aroma was really strong with Citra. It was intense. And it was good, and a good intense too.
Yeah,
I think it's really good. I think it's the lightest mouthfeel of the three, maybe. And maybe that's because you actually did boil, and those proteins were taken out of the beer. That's not a ding at all, because it's
you're right.
Great. It's not.
I would agree.
It's not watery at all. It's perfectly satisfying. It's just that sitting that it's just a difference. It's not a ding. I could drink. And what's the ABV on this?
This one is. That's a good question. It is. I'm scrolling through my notes. 5.5. So pretty low.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, it stands up well as I go into my Leon Redbone voice or my Fred Ziffel voice. It stands up well next to the. It stands up well next to the other bigger beers. I mean, mine being 7.5, Josh's being 6.5. This does not taste like a lighter beer to me.
No, but
No.
in hot weather, you could drink 10 of these and it would be fine.
Yeah.
This is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm happy with it. I again, I think I just went for a New England style IPA with Belgian yeast. Was essentially what was my sort of North Star.
Yeah. It worked.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was really hazy when I first poured it, which kind of threw me off a little bit because I'm like, what caused all that haze? Was it the wheat malt? Was it the fact that I dry hopped at fermentation? And I think it's the dry hopping at fermentation that caused it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, even now, well, granted, there wasn't really any, it doesn't seem like any sediment in this can, really.
No,
The haze is that I don't know, it's at a really nice level. Like light comes through it, but it's hazy. Like it looks really good.
Yeah, and I think that's because of the boil, right? Like I had a hot break. I don't think I added any findings. I definitely didn't. I mean, I didn't add, like, I don't even know. I don't think I added Whirlflock or anything, but, yeah. And it was really easy to make, and I would do it again.
You have my address, so do it again.
You gotta be. That's it. I mean, that one I have a lot of. I think, everyone I that had it so far liked it, but then didn't go back. And I think it's just because, everyone's really into the IPAs, and it's like it's got that Belgian off,
See, it's not, to me, it's not, it's definitely there, but to me, it's not like so in your face that it's distracting.
No, but I make a lot of wit beers, and they don't go as fast as when I make an IPA, which is that's just in my little house, like.
Yeah, well, that's the world in general, I think.
Right. I would imagine at a brewery, it's similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how many taps do you have active right now at your house? I mean, we can't judge this beer.
At the time, it was 6. So
yeah, see. See, if you had 6 taps active, I might not go back to any of the beers because, at the end of the evening, I would have had 6 pints.
Right. Yeah, and that's the problem is everyone, here it's just pour your own. So everyone wants to try all of it.
Right. Yep.
So it just doesn't go as quickly.
And what's your address?
227.
If you're in the Colorado area.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, yeah, you may see if I put a Belgian Colorado IPA on tap at Gambit, it'll be this.
Wow.
Is tasty. I really like it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was I'm really kind of being a smaller brewer, but trying to get just the maximize sort of the hoppiness that a pro brewer can get. I think just going with the sort of cryo hops and the dry hop has been just game changing for just what I can do, because I'm getting more beer in the end. Because if I go with regular hops, I mean, my whole thing's clogged. It's like half the fermenter's full of hops. I'm like, well, what's the point? I'm getting like 2 gallons at max.
Yep, totally. Yeah, cryo hops they're great.
Yeah, and I like this particular one. I mean, I remember back in the day, I would put cryo hops in a beer, and it just was like, it was just powder. Like I feel like it would never really go in the beer.
Yeah,
if that made any sense.
Yep.
But now it looks like real pellets, and they don't fall apart, and it's not powder. Looks like they got heft to them. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think it's just they're figuring out the their process. It's just like everything else. Like it gets every year they get better and better and better.
Yeah. Yeah, and I didn't, in this one too, I didn't try to scale back. I actually tried to push the temp a little bit, which is why I didn't go in a glycol chiller, because I kind of want it. Because I always remember when I sent you I think it was the Belgian triple, James, back a while ago, and it just didn't have any Belgian character. Do you remember that one?
I remember I liked it.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, it was clear and dry, but it just didn't have it wasn't like super Belgian-y. And I was trying to control just like the crazy fermentation that I thought I would get if I just pushed the temp a little bit higher. But with this one, I'm like, well, now I do want that Belgian character, and maybe it was the Saison yeast as opposed to a Belgian wit, like a wit strain specifically, that sort of subdued the Belgianness enough to let the dry hops come through without clashing, perhaps. I don't know. Or just using Citra versus literally probably any other hop. Kind of wins a lot.
Citra is a little bit of a cheat code.
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you guys, I like all three.
I do
too. Yep,
yeah,
for sure.
And they're different enough. You know, I'm not going to ask for everybody's favorites because I can't pick a favorite. I think I think they're all good. I think they're all different enough to where they're each their own beer. I think whether they stack up to, I don't know, what is there a BJCP guideline that we're shooting for? I don't know how any of them would match up to that.
Mm-hmm.
But each one is really, really good and enjoyable, and I would go back to any of them. I think good job, guys. I think we did good. No surprise.
Things are great. Yeah, this is why beer and brewing is still so fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
You take the same concept, basically all make the same beer, but they're three completely different animals, and they're three they're all great in their own little spin.
Yeah.
Right. Slightly different ingredients, but mainly the same, and slightly different process, but mainly the same.
And then
different scales.
And then we come away from this meeting with some ideas on how we can apply each other's techniques to the next beers.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
For sure. Yeah.
Maybe not mine, but
Well,
no one wants a bathtub full of yeast.
Yeah. Some of us have to keep our wives happy.
Right.
Ouch. Hey, I cleaned it up. I cleaned it all up. I did it all myself. No, we've been married a long time, and there's a reason. I would be clean. I'd be on the street with the cardboard sign if I were to say, so when do you got that? Let me know when you get that done. Yeah. No. We'll brew for food. I don't know.
You don't outsource. You get your hands dirty.
That's right. No, once it's okay. It was it only took a few minutes, and then it was done. And next time I'll put the bucket in the bathtub and close the shower curtain, and that will make my life a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure.
Like a psycho effect.
Oh, all right, guys. Well, this was this was like the funnest episode because we didn't have to do any work. We just tasted beer and talked about beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's simple.
We had to do the work to get here.
Well, of course. But this afternoon we get to enjoy the fruits of our labors.
Yeah, I had to ship these to you with exploding saisons in them as well.
That's right.
That is true. Yeah.
But
yeah. So we all had an explosion, right?
Yeah.
Explosions happened around the table.
And isn't that all? What we're looking for?
All you can ask for.
Yeah, right. It's like the 4th of July.
Which is coming up.
And that's what this beer will still be on tap.
There you go. All right, guys. Thanks again. This was so much fun.
Oh, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Many thanks to Matt and Josh. Again, check out Matt's Brew Cabin and Swim University channels and sites. And go to visit Josh at Gambit Brewing in St. Paul, Minnesota. And be sure to tell somebody that you heard about it on the show. If you have brewing questions, show suggestions, or just want to say howdy, write to James at basicbrewing.com, or just fill out the contact form at basicbrewing.com. And please don't forget to tell us where you're from. Check out our mobile-friendly shop at basicbrewingshop.com. Thanks to everybody supporting us through our Patreon page. Special goodies coming your way. Check that out at patreon.com/basicbrewing. It's all until next time. Till then, thanks for listening, everybody. I'm James Spencer. Production help for Basic Brewing Radio and our website is provided by Kelly Dodson. Basic Brewing Radio is a production of Active Voicing. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. In the meantime, stay well and stay tuned. So long.